And we're live. Okay, this is Daniel F. Knight with the breaking news. We're here with Jordan Lyles, and Jordan's got a lot to say. Jordan, you know what? Let me ask you this though, real quick before we even get into it. We're going to kill some time for some people to jump on, but is there any other Lyles that want to come on my show and expose something? Is there any?
I don't think so.
I'll tell you what, man. I met your dad, and when you talk about just powerful presence and just somebody that you can tell, like right from the rip, like right from our conversations, the guy is a great guy. He's very open. He's strong-willed, which was something you and I both agreed on. And Robert, his nickname's Bubbers. Yeah. And from the 13, 14 seconds of interaction that I had with him on, just initial calls, you can just tell good people, and he's good people. So I'm hoping you're the same.
I hope, man. I appreciate that. And one thing I can say about my dad, obviously being his son is hard sometimes because he's always in your ear about everything, man. But as I told you earlier, I mean, he's hands down the most honest man I've ever met. And growing up in his shadows, and if I can be half the man he is when I'm his age, I think I did a pretty good job. One of the things he's always on me about, and he says this fluently, whether he says it to me, I heard him say it to you, is any organization, whether it's a business, program, a team, it rises and falls on leadership. And he's always taught me from a young age to just be, a strong leader and not to be that guy that follows the crowd. So, I definitely, growing up under him, respect, morals, integrity, honesty. Those are four big things that, he taught me growing up. And like I said, if I can be half the man he is, I think I'll be a good guy.
And you're definitely not following the crowd today. As far as I'm to understand, the league, from what I hear, has a policy of not talking to any media source.
Yes and no. I mean, it's just kind of a situation where they kind of like to keep it behind closed doors, just trying to make a public opinion.
Yeah, and so here at the breaking news, we're all about transparency. That's our number one goal, and transparency gets thrown around a lot, and we try and be as transparent on what's going on. Obviously anything we talk about is posted online for people to discuss, and so I hope we're doing that today. I hope people are talking about this today. So number one question, well, before we even get into that, like what's going on with the football team currently, give us the events that led up to the gunshot, and then from the gunshot on, we'll talk about what's going on here. But give us some events leading up to the gunshot.
Got it. So I took over as director of the program in 2016. I had interviewed for the junior high job. I did not receive that job. The guys that had moved on from Pop Warner, Patsy Choppa became the head coach of the junior high. At that time, himself, another guy who had moved on to be his assistant. They were the Pop Warner guys since I can remember. I graduated from Newcastle in 2010. I played football at Geneva College my freshman year, which would have been 2010, 2011. 2011, I became a Pee Wee football coach, and I've been coaching ever since. So long story short, 2016, I took over as director of the program. Obviously, as people know, there was debts, there were things in place. The program was kind of in chaos, so to speak, when I took over. We were about $15,000 in debt. I took over the program. Essentially, the first thing I did, I reached out to, mentors of mine, Sean Anderson Sr., Ralph Blundo, Joe Cowart, kind of got their advice. Obviously, Joe Cowart's the varsity head coach.
Yeah. I reached out to Joe, actually, to see if he wanted to come on. I never got a response. But I'm not saying anything about that. I just
good guy. I mean, he's just anything's going on, whatever. Had those guys' fingerprints all over it. What do you advise? What don't you advise? So on and so forth. First thing I did at that point was I had to sit down with Steve Fonterra and Mark Pinello, who are both school board members. And essentially my plan was to take this to the school board to have it become an official school program. I don't remember exactly. It's been a few years. But essentially, the school board, I believe, I don't know if there was a vote or not taken, came back and said no. Reason behind that is, like you and I touched on earlier, if they take on youth football, then basketball comes.
Right.
Then baseball comes, then whatever else. And all of a sudden, if you say yes to one youth program, you have to say yes to them all. And then if anybody knows anything about youth sports, you're looking at a 10,000 plus budget per program that you're taking on. That's a lot of money. So then at that point, essentially, we put code of conduct.
Let me stop you real quick. What grades would that affect?
So the youth football program for Newcastle youth football is grades 3 through 6.
Okay.
That's what it's always been. I believe John Cox in 2017, when he created his I can't even think of what his program is called off the top of my head.
Don't worry. I just wanted to clarify for the audience.
Program that he started, it's kindergarten through second grade, which became our feeder program. Long story short, I put code of conduct in place. We started interviewing for coaches. We had checks and balances, so on and so forth. Fast forward to last season. After the 2017 season, a buddy of mine, his name's Zach Hayward. We were buddies growing up. We played against each other in high school. He's from Blackhawk. He graduated in 2009. He received the head coaching job at Blackhawk High School for football. He interviewed me after a Newcastle Blackhawk game and hired me on the spot as a varsity football coach. So I'd already known going into the 2018 season that I wasn't going to coach, wasn't really going to be around much, being that I was going to be down at Blackhawk. At that point in time, I created my own board of directors, which essentially consisted of myself, Kevin Carmichael, based on his police detective background, Chris Fry, who obviously everyone knows, he's running for mayor, great guy.
I've heard of him.
At Masters, yeah. Floor Jr., Sammy Floor, obviously, for those that don't know, I want to say it was his grandpa or great-grandpa who actually started the Pop Warner program in the Newcastle, Lawrence County area. So, obviously, I felt it would be great to have him on board. We had John Cox, who's obviously – John, for those that don't know, has been around youth football since I was playing youth football. He was always that guy picking kids up, dropping them off at practice, making sure they had something to eat. He's just that guy that has a general well-being and care for the kids. I mean, he still does that to this day. And
that's what
person.
I was going to say that's what football is really. A lot of these youth football is about. People don't understand it's a place for kids to get good character development.
No doubt.
Ages, the 3rd to 6th grade, it's like critical development time. And that's why it's so important for them to have a program right now.
Yeah. I mean, and just to add to that, I mean, I started playing football for the Croton Southside Steelers when I was in like 1st grade.
Southside Steelers. Okay.
My buddy Dom Cook and I, he's my best friend to this day. I mean, we were in 1st grade. Him, myself, J1J, we were 1st graders playing on a 4th grade team with guys like DeReese Henderson. And, my point is that, football has definitely molded me into the man that I am today.
Sure.
There's lessons that you learn, and there's coaches along the way. I can name a gazillion of them that had an impact on my life growing up and coming up through the system. But back to what I was saying, and then the last board member I had was Alicia Estes. She's a parent in the district, and she's an accountant. So she was our treasurer. So essentially we created this board of directors. We put a parent code of conduct, player code of conduct, coach code of conduct in place, and had a system in place going forward. So fast forward to the incident that happened in Taggart. Every year since I've been director, we've had a scrimmage with a team outside of the county just because we don't want to give away what we're doing, obviously, when we're playing a county team.
Right.
We scrimmage Farrell or we scrimmage a Youngstown team. So the Youngstown team brought over their 4th grade team, their 6th grade team. We had the scrimmages we usually do at Taggart Stadium. I was there. Kevin Carmichael was there. There's other few people there. And long story short, the incident happened. There were gunshots outside the stadium, blah, 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 blah. So essentially what happened at that point, being that at this point I was voted in as a league commissioner, and then I was obviously the director of Newcastle football. I called up another commissioner. I said, hey, I'm telling you this before, it breaks news, Facebook, social media, so on and so forth. Here's what happened, and here's what I suggest. I suggested that we play all away games based on the fact that I knew that the county schools were going to be in an uproar
So right then and there, you took immediate action and you said, I'm going to, look, I understand why you're concerned about this. Let's just from here on out play all away games until everybody's comfortable, until this thing. Yeah.
100%.
So that speaks a lot to your character there. You already predicted that this would be an issue.
Yeah, 100%. I always like to look at side. You always have two sides, and then you have the truth, right? So
Sure.
even though I was there, I seen it. I'm a Newcastle guy. I wanted to look at it from the outside in, and I'm just like, as a parent, like my oldest son, Ty, he's 9. He goes to Shenango. He's heavily involved with sports out there. If there was an incident that happened at Shenango, as a parent, I'd be concerned, obviously, right? Until you get the story, what the plan is going forward, so on and so forth. So, like I said, just to appease all the minds, hey, we'll play all away games. It is what it is. Not that it has anything to do with the association, but it's a Newcastle issue. Until we can resolve this and come out with a plan publicly, it's in the best interest of the kids to play away games. So
did you at that time, did you feel it was a safety concern at having the kids at the game or having everybody at the game? Did you I know you did it. I know you did it because you needed to make those concessions. But at that point, did you feel it was a safety concern? Because to be honest with you, I'm not exactly sure that, that I don't know what happened. I've heard different various stories of it. So one story said that, there was a guy 2 streets down. The other guy said it was a guy watching at the football game being shot at inward towards the crowd. And then there was, there's so many different variations of it. Do you feel that, after that happened, which I don't know the real one, to be honest with you, and I don't think it matters, a gunshot happened within 50 yards of where children play. So it's definitely a concern. But at that point, did you feel that, we had a real concern with people targeting the stadium or, something like that? Or what was going through your mind?
To be honest with you, just to clarify the situation, there was a guy standing outside the stadium. Another guy drove past, and they started exchanging gunfire, or right outside the stadium. As far as safety, no, I don't feel that was a safety issue with inside the stadium. But at the same time, man, with the world we live in today, that could happen anywhere. All I think it was two wrong guys in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the incident transpired. For the most part, 99.9% of people would not, do things like that around children. But like I said, I think this is just an incident. Wrong guys, wrong place, wrong time, and it transpired.
Let me ask you this question. Do you feel like that could honestly happen in another stadium? Like, let's say, just for example, Laurel. That's about just Shenango. Yeah. Do you feel like that can happen at Shenango?
The reality is there's trouble. There's trouble everywhere. There's always, based on the socioeconomic status of Newcastle. The reality is our district and Newcastle's district in general is different than the other districts. But yeah, there's trouble everywhere. There's, it can happen anywhere. Long story short. So yeah, again, I don't feel that it wasn't a Newcastle issue. It was just wrong place, wrong time, and it happened.
It was a community. Yeah, it wasn't a Newcastle thing. It was something that can happen at anybody. Okay. So moving on, that event happened, and you made those concessions. Mm-hmm. You said, "All right, we're going to play all away games." Now, this is where you and I talked, and I was like, "Wow, I can't believe this happened." So that's kind of where you filled me in. With you gave me little bullet points of everything that happened. So I would love for you to go into further detail. So after that season, you had been the champions that season too. Am I to understand that right?
Newcastle Red won the championship after this season.
This season, okay.
This incident took place in the August of 2018, so it happened prior to this past season.
Oh, okay. All right.
So basically, what happened was an emergency league meeting was called. Obviously, we had to address this issue. So the scrimmage took place, and I apologize. I'm pulling on my screen here to look at my calendar. The incident took place, I want to say, on Saturday, August 18th. So an emergency league meeting was called. I don't remember if the incident was on either Saturday 11th or Saturday the 18th. an emergency league meeting was called on Sunday, August 19th. Okay. So at this meeting, essentially, everyone came. I told the story, yada, yada, yada. And then at that point in time, there were, again, so the way this league works, and it's a little different and kind of baffles me, is instead of everyone just raising their hand for a vote, a piece of paper is passed out to everybody, and they write their vote on the piece of paper so the people can't
So
see.
it's like an anonymous?
Yeah, it's like anonymous votes. Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially at that point in time, I want to say that there were two teams that voted to kick us out of the league completely.
Okay.
And then on the flip side,
You want to mention those teams' names or no?
I mean, I can guess, but I mean, out of respect.
Oh, okay, that's right. There's no. It's
I
anonymous.
don't know.
Okay.
You know what I mean,
I understand.
For the record, I mean, I don't know. So essentially, what happened at that point in time is the league voted unanimously to not only make us play away games, but also pay security for these away games. Which at this point in time, I mean, it sucks. But all I'm thinking about is, look, I'm not going to be around much. I know I'm coaching in Blackhawk. All I want to do is make sure that these kids have a season. The uniforms are already ordered. Everything's already purchased. Everything's been paid out. At this point, look, these kids have been working their butts off all summer long. We did a mini camp, summer conditioning, yada yada yada.
Right.
Wait for these kids to have a season. It's not fair for it to be taken away because of a horrendous decision that was made by two adults. So at that point, okay, no worries.
Did either of these adults, did they have kids in the game?
Both.
Both of them had kids that were playing?
Correct.
Okay. And did you feel the need for security was warranted?
I mean, we always have security at games.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't to a point where we felt that we needed to have a police force, so to speak. I mean, Bobby Salem and I have always been in kind of constant contact where he'd know the schedule, and there would always be a patrol car or two in the area in case an incident broke out. But we would always make sure that we had at least one armed security guard in the stadium, specifically by the concession stand. Obviously, that's where the money's at.
Bobby Salem's usually on top of that sort of thing. I know he over-dedicated police at one point.
100%. But for this, being that we were having a scrimmage, to be completely honest with you, and again, I don't remember. I don't believe that we had security because it was a scrimmage. It wasn't an actual game. We didn't even have a concession stand for the scrimmage. It was just basically teams playing, parents watching. I mean, there were 100, maybe 200 people there max. But outside, I mean, even with that being there, like I said, Kevin Carmichael was there. I mean, he's a cop. I mean, it happened. Whether it didn't happen inside the stadium, it happened outside the stadium. So,
Kevin Carmichael is a coach, or who is he?
Kevin Carmichael was a board member. He was on
He's okay. You did okay. That's right.
His son Sean, great kid, played for me for 2 years. And then he's another guy that just has a general care, general well-being of the students. Being that he has two kids right now that are going through the district. So he was a board member, and then like I said, I had him on the board based on the fact that he has the police background, so to speak. He could help out with the criminal backgrounds that we did on guys. If we need to get an answer on something, he could clarify that rather quickly than having to go through the process of a phone call and waiting on a call back, so on and so forth.
Good.
But so back to where was I at with this? Oh, so I agreed at that point, okay, we'll play all away games, we'll pay security. So in my mind, based on, my experience with booking security or even police, I'm thinking, all right, it's going to be $100, maybe $200 a game. And then what ended up happening is I started getting, and I gave everybody, I told these guys specifically at this meeting, I said, I need to make sure that I have quotes for all of these security details by Friday, August 24th, because I was set to have a board meeting that Saturday to get approval for this budget. So essentially I get these bills, and I mean, you have it to where you have districts getting as many as 3 and 4 uniformed officers per game.
Without telling you.
Well, I mean, again, this stuff kind of details weren't addressed at the meeting, but I got all the invoices for the ones that we paid for by Thursday, the 23rd.
Let me ask you this: prior to that, had they had security? Like, was there, before then, before Newcastle showed up, did they have security?
There's always a security guard.
So they decided to make you responsible for extra security, or their security as a whole.
there's extra security. So like,
Okay.
just
All right.
to give you an idea, I mean, a uniformed security guard is going to be roughly $25 an hour. So essentially, for a 4-hour block, you're going to have 2 games in a 4-hour block, right? You're going to have a 2 o'clock game, which will be your Pee Wees, and then a 4 o'clock game, which will be your Pop Warner. So a 4-hour block, you're looking at essentially $100.
Yeah.
Like I said, so these county schools were essentially now, instead of just having security guards, they were having, I think, cops or uniformed officers, whatever that.
Uniformed officers.
And obviously, their overtime rate is through the roof in comparison to a security guard.
Yeah.
I mean, and then on the flip side, I didn't, and it was a lack of communication on both parties' parts. I know we didn't pay the Mohawk bill and we didn't pay the Neshannock bill, which, to both of those districts, anybody that's watching, I apologize. It wasn't me going and stiffing the districts. It was just a lack of communication to where, one, I didn't have the invoices by the deadline that I'd given at the meeting. And then 2, at the end of the year, to be honest with you, when schools sent me invoices, we didn't have any money. So it wasn't an issue of me, trying to stiff these districts out of paying them or a lack thereof. It was just a lack of communication between myself and the association members.
Yeah. I would recommend not even addressing it. Maybe take that offline directly with the people that you owe the bills, because there's nothing really we could do here. Who's that? Who's that? Do they want to come on?
This is my youngest son, Junior.
What's up, Junior? What is that? A dinosaur?
Are you a dinosaur?
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, we run a professional show here, Jordan.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding. So anyway, long story short, you got to foot the bill for security, and you do, right? You foot the bill. You take on you personally. You explained to me that to me before. So, all right, things are going smooth. What happened after that?
So essentially, we get through the regular season. NC Black, it was a rough year for those guys. I mean, they only had 12 kids. They had 1 6th grader. So it was a pretty rough year for them. And then you had NC Red, where they're pretty good. I mean, they went undefeated. They went undefeated in the regular season. So then it comes time for the playoff meeting. At the playoff meeting, traditionally, if you're the highest seed, the 1 or the 2 seeds, just like any other sport, you're the home team if you're the highest seed. So there was an argument at this meeting based on the fact that, look, we went through this regular season. There were no incidences. Everything happened, so on and so forth. There were arguments that took place. And essentially, man, I fought tooth and nail to make sure that NC Red had home games because I felt that we went through the regular season. We did our due diligence by playing all away games. That was proved to be an isolated incident.
Never happened again, right? This didn't happen again.
Played all away games. I mean, I believe throughout the season there was one. And again, as association, you can't control the parents. You're only responsible for your children and your coaches. The parents are outside the fence. They can yell and say and do whatever they want. That has nothing to do with the association, right?
Right.
As a actual program, we had one coach that had one on-field incident, and he was suspended for 3 games. So I'm sorry?
No blemishes.
No blemishes. I mean,
yeah,
it happens. What happens?
No scandal.
No, you have coaches that coach Pop Warner, and they think that it's the Super Bowl, and I was a young kid full of energy at one point in time that thought that 3rd and 4th grade football was the world, and if we didn't go undefeated, I wouldn't sleep for days. So, rightfully so. But long story short, we had a coaching incident. So outside of that, we go to this meeting, and I fight tooth and nail to get these guys, their home playoff game. For whatever reason, I remember the news was there. I don't know how it got there, but the Youngstown News showed up. We had to kick them out of the meeting. The guys were kind of in awe. Long story short, a motion was called to allow us to play home games. Someone seconded that motion, and then the league voted in our favor. I want to say it was 5-2.
Okay.
So long story short, we got our home games. NC Red went on. They won the championship at Taggart. Made sure we played all the games during the day. Had security. NCPD was there. Yada yada yada. So fast forward, it's May. This is probably like March. Now in all my years involved,
And this is where it gets good.
this is where it gets a little interesting.
Yeah.
So in all my years involved with the league, and granted, I've been a coach for some years, and then I was a director for, this will be my second year, but I've been the program head for, I was the program head for 3 years. We've never, and I may be wrong, but I have notes, I have all the stuff here. We've never really met as a league until like June. End of May at the latest. And I remember in years past I would push because I was pushing to get this flag football movement involved. I was pushing to try and bring in other teams like Farrell and Slippery Rock. I was just a guy that, I care about kids, and like football was my outlet to care about these kids. So
right,
all these different ideas as a young kid full of vinegar. Hey, let's try and do all this stuff and let's see what happens. Long story short, there were meetings that took place. I want to say there was one in March, there was one in April. And to the league's credit, the meetings were posted online. But if anyone checks out the league website, it's league lineups. It's like if you type in Tri-County Youth Football, it's a league lineup website. I mean, it looks like it was created in 2002. The bylaws.
GeoCities.
I'm sorry?
This is a website from 2002.
I mean, that's what it looks like. I mean, the bylaws are from 2015 on there. So it hasn't been updated much. So to the league's defense, the league meetings were posted. But usually the guys that, I'm commissioners with, it, I text frequently. So it's not like there was a meeting I wouldn't know about.
So summarize what happened.
Yeah, so essentially what happened was is a meeting took place. I was not present at the meeting, and Newcastle representatives were not present at the meeting. Obviously, I stepped down publicly in January of 2019. Joe Coward at that point is stepping in. He's taking back over his program. So fast forward, essentially Newcastle wasn't at the meeting and myself wasn't at the meeting. And from the league notes or the meeting notes, there was a vote taken to remove Newcastle from the league, and the league voted unanimously to kick Newcastle out of the league.
So let's stop right there. So the league voted unanimously. Mm-hmm. Who votes in the leagues? The team heads or
plays. So essentially the way it works is obviously every school is governed by an association, right? So you have Wilmington, you have Laurel, you have Mohawk, you have Union, you have Shenango, and who am I missing? Is that it?
I guess. I don't know.
Mohawk, Shenango, Union.
Basically all the townships, the Shannock, all the townships.
And that's the 6-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially the way it works is all youth sports are governed by their associations, right? So like Shenango has
wait a minute. You said unanimous. Newcastle was not represented at that meeting?
Correct.
Why do you think that was?
I mean, I don't have to say it for you to know it. I mean, to be honest with you, I think I wasn't invited to the meeting because I'm not a yes guy.
Okay.
If it's right, it's right. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And so I don't represent Newcastle Youth Football anymore. The whole situation is wrong.
Now, I can assume that if I assume what you say is 100% correct. So by the way, we're not a biased news source. If you want to come on and argue a second opinion, I don't know who you are. And I'm not asking Jordan to not mention any names of who, but if there's anybody out there that wants to come talk about a contrary opinion to this, you are welcomed on my show. Please reach out to me. I'll throw up our Facebook group so you can see this and you can reach out to me. Now, I'm going to put that there so you can reach out to me, and then I'm going to say this. It was a unanimous vote, meaning that if there were that many teams there, Newcastle didn't get a vote. Newcastle wouldn't vote themselves out of the league, right or wrong?
Correct.
Okay. So what happened here is that for some reason or another, Newcastle didn't get to make it to this meeting for whatever reason. I don't know.
They didn't get to that meeting because, obviously they're going to argue their point.
Right. You think somebody would want to be there for a meeting to kick them out?
Even though I'm not affiliated with Newcastle Youth Football, I'm a Newcastle guy. At the end of the day, right is wrong is wrong. And I understand there's concerns that date back to 2005 and yada, 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 like you and I touched on earlier. But I can assure you that since I was the director of Newcastle Youth Football in 2016, there was one incident that took place that would dictate league discipline. There was a coach that forged his clearances. We found out about it. He was immediately removed and wasn't allowed to coach the rest of the year.
Well, let me stop you there. So Newcastle's reasoning, or not Newcastle News. Like, I read the Newcastle News article of it, and they indicated that there was something. I'm not saying they're doing anything wrong or doing anything bad. Newcastle News is doing what they can. They're doing what they can with what they have to work with. So that said, that their idea of what happened was that the league members thought that the football team was going to go somewhere else. How accurate is that?
Yeah, so just to clarify that situation, so essentially the way it was presented to me, so there's two sides. So there's the Sam Flora and Joe Coward side. So obviously they're Newcastle. They were told that the league voted them out, right?
Okay.
And
was
then
that first or second?
This is what do you mean? This is before the meeting that just took place a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
As I'm gathering all this information.
Okay.
So then I started reaching out to contacts that I have within the county, because obviously I've been involved. I can call people directly, association heads, so on and so forth. And it was from their understanding that it was a discussion and that a vote had never taken place. Okay. So Newcastle, and it was under their understanding, I'm sorry to add to that Newcastle was leaving Lawrence County to go to Beaver County. That was the understanding. That was the general understanding of what was taking place. So
how much sense does that even make?
0 sense. So the county schools think the Newcastle's leaving to Beaver County, and then you have Newcastle who thinks they're voted out of the league.
So the county, let me get this straight. So the county's official statement is that they were under the impression that Newcastle, the city in the middle of Lawrence County, would be interested in going to a neighboring county to play football.
Well,
is that accurate?
It's not. I wouldn't say it's not asinine to think, and here's why. For one, I mean, we'll just say what it is. The Newcastle has to separate into two different teams, right? You have to have Newcastle Red and you have to have Newcastle Black.
Okay.
Reason for that originally was Newcastle's enrollment numbers used to be so much higher than everybody else's in the county. Well, over the past 10, 15, 20 years, you're seeing all these people leave the city and move to the counties. So
right.
Enrollment numbers have dropped every year to where, if you compare, and I might be wrong, I don't have these facts in front of me, but I would assume and say it's safe to say that outside of Union, Newcastle's enrollment numbers are relatively almost similar, very similar to the other county schools.
Oh, okay. I see. You're saying besides Union. I got you. Yeah, that makes sense. 20,000 people, I think, is in Newcastle proper.
Yeah, and I may be wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize. That's just my estimation. Now, and I know from a football number that's around the same, because I know for 4 grades, we relatively on a year-to-year basis, we have about anywhere between 90 to 100 kids. So that's about, you say roughly 20 to 25 kids per grade that play football. So now the reasoning for Newcastle to leave Lawrence County to go to Beaver County is because, for those of you that don't know, Beaver County is hands down, in my opinion, if not the best, one of the best youth football leagues in the entire state. I mean, they were on Friday Night Tykes, a big show. I mean, they have a youth football league that has 16 teams.
Okay.
They play contact football as young as kindergarten.
So what you're saying is it was the current league's pretty good assumption then? I mean, is it an understandable mistake in your opinion?
At least the story and the opinion that I was given up until we went to the meeting last week.
Yeah. Oh, hey, if you don't mind, I'll plug that. Jordan put out a very long wall of text about what he feels has happened, and we're kind of touching on it. But if you really want to get into very specific stuff, he put out a text that you made very public, I believe, right? It was a public quote. Is it still up?
I think I mean it's up, but I mean at that point it's on my page, but it's not like public at this point.
Okay, I was gonna say if you want to, you can make it public. If you wanna not, you can not. But if you want to, post it here. Post it on this video link, and that if you want to get the word out, or if you want to edit it to summarize it, because it was pretty long.
Yeah.
I read it. I read the whole thing. And I kind of share your frustration with it. I really do. I'm not a parent. I don't have very much skin in the game, but I can tell you, Newcastle football is so important. So, so basically we got voted out of the league. Correct. That's it. So for everybody listening, we got voted out of the league. We didn't have a choice. There was no assumptions that we were going to go to a different league, right? Is that right? Right? We got voted out. We didn't have an option to go to a different league. We just did it.
So
we just had to do it.
We had essentially, as I'm gathering, so let's back up a second. So the reason, okay. So what happens is I'm seeing parents on Facebook. Obviously, I think people are starting to understand, but most people don't realize the power of social media. Facebook, you post something, everybody sees it, right?
Yeah.
So even though, like I said, I'm not involved with Newcastle football, I see all these parents posting about we're not going to have a season, yada, yada, yada. What are we going to do? People reaching out to me. People reaching out to John Cox, da-da-da-da. So that's when I reached out to Sam. I reached out to Joe to find out their side of the story. And they said that they were voted out of the league. And then I reached out to the county schools, and they say, oh, well, we're under the assumption that Newcastle are leaving to Beaver County. So at this point, I said, whoa. We need to have an emergency league meeting to get to the bottom of this issue.
Okay.
So we have a league meeting. Make sure that Newcastle's there. Newcastle's there. They're represented. Essentially, they go back through. They read the minutes from the last meeting. At that point in time, it was verified that a vote was taking place to remove Newcastle from the league.
Wow!
Voted unanimously. Now, right there. So at that point in time, Joe Coward, he comes in there, and me at this point, I'm livid. I'm hot. I'm trying to do everything in my power to stay calm and not make this a bigger deal than it is.
Right.
Coward's acting like a gentleman. He's doing everything in his power, calm, cool, and collective to essentially appease these guys. Basically at this point he's begging, like, what is needed to be done by Newcastle Youth football to get us in this league. And essentially no one, you could hear a pin drop, like you said in the paper. No one said anything. So at that point in time, John Lambo, who is a vice president of the Shannon Athletic Association, he files a motion, or he rules for a motion to vote Newcastle back into the league. So anyone who's not familiar with the way board of directors work, someone makes a motion, someone has to second that motion, and at that point a vote is taking place. So the NAA calls for a motion to vote Newcastle back into the league. At that point, you could hear a pin drop. Everyone looks straight ahead with a blank stare. No one seconded the motion to vote Newcastle back in the league.
Okay, so after the assumption that they were going to another league, after they said, I assumed you were going to another league. Oh, my bad. Then they say, no, that's not true. They see that there was a vote, and now we have an opportunity to say, look, this is in all clearness. I'd like to vote to get us back in the league. There is a vote, and there's an attempt to vote. Is that right? There's a motion to vote, correct. and that motion is shot down.
Correct.
Period.
Correct.
Was there any district that made the motion?
No, I mean, the Shannon called for the motion to vote.
The Shannon called for the motion.
No one seconded the motion.
All right. Well, thanks a lot. Thank you, Nishanik.
Yeah, I mean, guys. I mean, and I don't. I'm not trying to go and point the finger.
No, it's not. There's no point.
The way this works is a lot of these guys are the commissioners for football, but they have to go back to an association that they have to answer to, right? So when these guys come in this meeting, there's already an understanding of what they're going to say yes and what they're going to say no to. So it's not a personal attack to any of these guys who are at this meeting.
Right.
But for whatever reason, when they had the conversation within their associations, the association decided that they didn't want Newcastle to be a part of the league.
All right. Let me ask you the number one question here, though. And, this is I'm playing devil's advocate. Obviously, me, I don't have any skin in the game. I've already explained to everybody. I don't have any skin in the game. I just think the story's there because it's so intriguing and it just hurts. But ultimately, do you see any points from their side? People, if you grew up, think about it this way. If you grew up bootstrap, and pulled yourself up and managed, I don't want to say managed to make it out of town, but, you were given the ideals that, I need to work hard and try to move out of Newcastle, because a lot of people feel that way. I'm not saying that's how anybody, I feel that. I'm not saying that's how anybody should feel. I'm saying, some people did feel like that. Some people felt like, I grew up and I said, I got to get out of this city. I've got to get out of Pennsylvania. And I did, and I moved to Nashville. But somebody said, I worked all my life. I want to get out of here. I don't want my family to end up dead from this, potentially from this. Do you feel what they feel at all? Do you understand where they're coming from at all? And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. These are not my feelings at all.
I see both sides of it. I think, like I said earlier, a lot of the normal for Newcastle isn't normal for a lot of these county schools. You have
you mentioned socioeconomic.
It's just, a lot of these, you look at these county schools, and it's not everybody, but it's the majority. You have 2-parent homes. You have parents,
nuclear families. Yeah.
Yeah. You have a whole family. You have you have households where both parents have a job. You have households where your family sits down and you eat dinner every night. And Newcastle, that's the minority. I can say from experience that, there were incidences where I'd be afraid, a kid would come and play for me, right?
Right.
He'd only have his mom, single parent, couldn't afford to play. Okay, we'd eat the cost from a play, no big deal. But
Good. Thank you for doing that.
What are we going to
I was one of those kids that needed that, so thank you.
These kids, they can't play. And understand that, a lot of these parents have to also understand that, these programs, they have to be ran like a business, because at the end of the day, you have expenses. So you have to bring in revenue to pay for these expenses. These aren't, as much as we would like everything to be free, they're not.
Right. You can't set yourself on fire to keep other people warm. Yeah.
At the end of the day, everything costs something. Nothing is given for free, So to answer your point, I see both sides of it, because Newcastle's normal isn't the same normal that a family in Neshannock or Mohawk or Laurel or whatever may have. But then at the same time, do I think Newcastle was put under the microscope more than everywhere else? 100%. And I'm not going to say why, but everybody knows why.
We face a lot of cynicism. We're trying to fight so many, they're not stereotypes, but so many like stories that aren't true about us. We're just trying to get by, really it's hard. And, stuff like this that happens, and this doesn't affect us. At the end of the day, no matter what happens, you and I, we got to wake up and we got to go to work. But, the kids that won, the kids that were champions last year can't even compete this year. What's that tell you? What's that say? What's that say about the competition for the kids? Everybody loses out. Who had a friend from Mohawk? Who played against their buddy from Laurel? Everybody lost here, and we beat them. So the competition is now they're just facing themselves, and that's even worse for them, and that's not fair to them.
100%.
So ultimately, we talked about. So I've read in the paper. Tell me if this is true. I don't know. Is Malik is starting his own league? Is that? I tried to contact someone I know is his friend. I never got a return, like any return back. And what I was to understand his mother, I could have made the wrong connection, but I tried to contact both of those people to maybe get a statement from him or something like that, any just words of encouragement, something, but I didn't get anything. But I did read in the, read somewhere, I don't remember the source, that he was going to start a league or a youth camp or something like that. Is it?
I don't know if he's starting his own league. I do know that he has a youth camp. Let me see here, taking place on June. I want to say it's the 28th.
Okay, so youth camp. Malik Hooker has a youth camp taking place in June sometime.
Taggart Stadium. He's running a youth football camp.
Where?
Taggart Stadium.
Taggart Stadium.
Yep.
Okay, and who's all invited?
Everybody.
Everybody, like township kids?
He had, I want to say they're taking 350 kids, and it sold out in 72 hours.
It sold out. Wait a minute. So Township kid. Wait a minute. Township kids are coming back.
That's correct.
Oh no! What happens? What's going to happen? What could?
That
is security. Are they wait a minute. Is it any of the townships providing security?
I don't believe it. But I mean,
no, I'm kidding. But honestly, now, I mean, do you see the hypocrisy here? It's just, I mean, come on, man. I don't know. I
don't think this is a county issue, a county-wide issue. I think to be completely transparent with this, I think there's there's a handful of guys that feel the way that they feel about Newcastle, that are involved with the league. This has transpired into what it has. I don't think, because all these teams, I mean, everybody's a Newcastle Runner Red Hurricane fan when it's basketball season.
Oh my God, yeah.
Shout out to Coach Blundo. I mean, he's the
shout out to Coach Blundo. He was around when I was around.
He's bred to these county schools. They play against each other in baseball. I mean, it's and even in football. I mean, for the most part, they have 7-on-7 scrimmages. So I just find it interesting that everything is normal outside of when it comes to youth football. There's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I get it. I don't know. Like I said, I don't really have skin in the game, but I can't say I obviously the whole thing doesn't add up. And again, if you're out there and I'm wrong, I welcome you to come on. I don't know who these people are. Jordan, if you could text me maybe, and maybe I'll send a message directly out to them to hear their side of the story. That's an open offer. Anybody that wants to come on, I'll post the link right now. If there's people out there that want to talk about it, you can send a message to us on the comments and we'll bring you in. Is it, okay. That doesn't help. Okay, from the township to get grant money, school security, there should be no problem with security. No, that's not a thing. So township can come to football camp, but that hookers haven't but kicked us out of the league. Okay, so someone else said it too. Now, there's anybody that wants to comment that is involved in this that wants to come on, be my guest. So Jordan, let's talk for 5 minutes on what else. There was somebody sent me this message. How do you pronounce his name? It Bocci?
Roger Butchie.
Butchie, yeah. So Butchie sent me a message, and I'm gonna read it to you. Most of it. It's long. I'm talking with Jordan. I think it should be brought up about the Hooker football camp. I did do that. No picking and choosing. I would also like to see some mayoral candidates and school board members who want to be elected show some concern over this issue as well. It really didn't have any context. Actually, sorry. But yeah, essentially he talked about the youth football camp from Malik. And like I said, I tried to get Malik to come on and, at least give some words of encouragement or something that is there. So Malik, if you'd like to, you can still come on. We'll invite you to the page. If you want to come and say some words to the kids. I'm sure they'd appreciate it. But I think that's what? You see any truth to that? I heard they will be playing in Ohio League.
I don't know specifically, but I know they're looking at two different options to play.
Okay. What let me ask you this. What was the final answer to what's happening? Are we still looking for a league, or are we joining a league? What are we doing?
What's going to happen this year? I mean, just because it's so late in the game, is you're going to have Newcastle's going to have a schedule. I don't know if they're going to be able to join a game this late join a league this late in the year. I mean, okay. I may be wrong, but again, I don't speak for Newcastle youth football, so that's not an answer that I can give you directly.
Okay.
But based on my opinion and my thought process, I know I know 2 years ago I went down to Beaver County and I tried to get into Beaver County, for the points that I stated earlier. And
Sure.
their concern is essentially, and I must have done a horrible job presenting it, but they thought that we were bringing an all-star team, which we're not. But essentially, it only makes sense for Newcastle to have one team and not be divided into two. So there should be one third and fourth grade team. There should be one fifth and sixth grade team. And then, in my opinion, they need to go to Beaver County and play against the cream of the crop competition, which is you got Aquapa, you got Beaver Falls, you got Hopewell, you got Rocks. I mean, those kids down there are fearless. And you know, to the point, based on their socioeconomic status, football, that's those kids' outlet. That's their way out. You know? You look at those districts every year, you know, they have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys going Division I every year because that's their outlet. That's the only way they're going to go to college is if they play sports, football specifically.
Yeah, and you know those aforementioned teams, those are some great opportunities to get into college. So yeah, absolutely. So you know, I'll be honest with you, it's 9:03. No one's going to be watching after this. Everybody's watching the season finale of Game of Thrones, which I also want to go watch. That said, Jordan, let's just have you give us a closing statement and let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah, I mean, you know, as I stated earlier, I mean, I'm not on here to upset anybody. I'm not on here to point the finger at anybody. You know, Dan and I have been in conversation the past few weeks, and I just felt that you guys needed to know the truth of everything that's going on, the inner workings of how all this works, so that you can ultimately form your own opinion. At this point, you know, the result has already been stated, and there's nothing that, you know, anyone can do at this point to change it. But again, I just felt that everyone needed to know how this stuff operates. So if you have kids coming up in the district, you're well aware, and that you can, you know, I guess just bring more attention to the situation.
Hey, man, honestly, I really appreciate you coming on and being honest with everybody and helping us settle this. I think that's what people need now is just some sort of closure on it. And, you know, we might not be in a league this year, but next year, you know, we have all the time in the world. You know, our kids will just get better and be ready to play somewhere else. And, you know, I know you're a big fan, and I'm a huge fan of you. So thank you so much. Thank you for being here. And I absolutely love your family. I need to tell you that. I don't know if there allows, I'll put a stamp of approval on it. All right.
Well, I appreciate that. One last thing.
Yes.
Tuesday's election day, right?
That is correct. Tuesday.
Get out and vote. There are a lot of big votes that are taking place this year in the election, and every single vote counts. Everyone always complains about how they're tired of this, they're tired of that. Well, make sure you get out Tuesday and make sure your voice is heard.
Jordan, you want to endorse any candidates? You like any candidates you want to openly endorse? It's okay.
Chris Fry's my guy, man. Chris Fry's my guy. He's on the board with me. Morgan, I can't think of his name. Morgan Boyd.
Oh yeah.
My man has the intelligence to be a senator someday. Morgan, I look forward to connecting with you. And outside of that, man, just, you know, let's get away from nepotism. Let's get away from cronyism. Let's get away from all this nonsense that's been taking place in this county over the past few years. And let's get some fresh faces in there and see what happens.
Hey, thanks again, man. Like I said, I love your family. Tell them I said hi.
Appreciate you, brother. I'll talk to you, man.
Appreciate you. Stay on. I'm going to hit the end. And we are done. So